this video we will see some concepts of topic probability for class 12th. I am starting with the topic of conditional probability. Conditional probability. Let A and B are two events on same sample space S. Then conditional probability is denoted by this symbol P A slash B or P A upon B and also by P A upon B. But generally we use the first symbol. So let us understand that what is the meaning of P A upon B. P A upon B. In this, P means conditional probability. This bracket can be read as of and event A on the condition that, and B means event B which has already occurred. So in this symbol, if we read it in continuation, then it means conditional probability of the event A on the condition that event B has occurred. Let us repeat. Conditional probability of event A on the condition that event B has already occurred. You must remember that A and B were two events. So here A and B are two events in which the event B has already occurred and you are finding the conditional probability of the event A. This sign, which is vertical bar sign, can also be replaced by a slash sign, and sometimes you can write down in this way also. But it is the most common form of the notation of conditional probability. So students, you have seen that what is the notation of conditional probability. Now, what formula is used to find out its value? Let us see that formula. Its formula is very simple. P A upon B is equal to P A intersection B upon PB, and where PB is not equal to 0. Because if PB becomes 0, then this value will become not defined. So we have to prevent PB from becoming 0. If you want to write down the formula of PB upon A, then what will happen? In that situation, numerator will not change, it will be same, but denominator will be changed. And obviously PA is not equal to 0. So you see students, in both of these formulas, numerator is same, PA intersection B, PA intersection B, but denominator in this case, in first case denominator was PB and in second case denominator was PA. So this is the formula which we use for finding the value of any conditional probability. Now we will see its properties. Property number 1, P S upon B is equal to 1, where B is some event on the sample space S and obviously PB is not equal to 0. Let us see its proof. I am starting with the left hand side. So P S upon B. Now if we apply the formula of conditional probability, then what will come in numerator? S intersection B, and in denominator PB will be taken. Suppose this rectangle is representing the sample space S and this circle is representing the event B. Then you must know that what is the role of intersection sign. When we have intersection sign between two events, it means we have to take common of them. So if I take common of S and B, then what will be the result? If I take the common of S and common of B, then I will get the B event itself. So the value of this part is PB, and in denominator same thing PB, they are cancelling each other and we are getting 1. So we have obtained the right hand side, and so this property is proved. So it is the first property related to conditional probability. Let us see second property. Property number 2, P A union B upon C. What are ABC? Again, ABC are some events on the same sample space S. Its formula is PA upon PC plus PB upon PC, PA intersection B upon PC, and where PC is not equal to 0. Property number 3, PE dash upon F, or you can take A dash upon B, then its formula is 1 minus PA upon B. So students, you have seen the topic of conditional probability. Now let us move to our next topic. Now students, our next topic is multiplication theorem on probability. Multiplication theorem on probability. Students, we have just studied the topic of conditional probability. Let us see the formula of conditional probability once again. PA upon B is equal to PA intersection B upon PB. This formula we have memorized. And here let me tell you that PA upon B means PA slash B, which is the standard symbol of conditional probability, but sometimes we use this also. Now if I do the cross multiplication, then what will happen? That PA intersection B is equal to PB into PA upon B. Okay, so this formula is known as multiplication theorem on probability. Let us see this formula in another way also. Suppose I say you that PB upon A, then what will be its formula according to conditional probability? Its formula will be PB intersection A upon PA, and we know that B intersection A and intersection B are same, so I can write down here this also. And if I do the cross multiplication, then what will come? PA intersection B is equal to PA into PB upon A. This is also multiplication theorem, and which is this formula and this formula, both of them are giving us the same result, but their representation is different. Here you see PP has been taken in starting, and here PA has been taken in starting, but their results will come same. So let us write down multiplication theorem in shortcut. PA intersection B is equal to PA into PB upon A, and obviously PA is not equal to 0, or PB into PA upon B, and where PB is not equal to 0. Now let me tell you that what is the meaning of A intersection B. So where A intersection B means event when both A and B are happening simultaneously. Okay, so A intersection B represents an event when A and B happens together. Okay, and this theorem is known as multiplication theorem. You can break P intersection B in this way also and in this way also. Both of them will give us the same result. Now suppose if there are three events A, B, C, then what will happen? P, A intersection B intersection C. And what is the meaning of this? A intersection B intersection C means event when all A, B, C are happening simultaneously. And P is the probability of that. So its formula is PA into PB upon A into PC upon AB. What is the meaning of AB here? Where AB stands for A intersection B. So you have seen multiplication theorem for 2 events and for 3 events. What if there are 4 events? No problem. This theorem can be extended to any number of events, maybe 4 events, maybe 5 events. In the same way, you will open the formula of multiplication theorem. Now let us see what are independent events. Independent events. If A and B are 2 events and happening of A is not affecting the happening of B and happening of B is not affecting the happening of A, then A and B are called independent events. So independent events are those events in which occurring of one event does not affect the occurring of other event. And in that situation, what will happen? If I say you that A and B are independent events, then the value of conditional probability of A at the condition that B has already occurred will be only PA because they are independent. So for A, the condition of B is useless because events A and B are independent. So that's why the conditional probability of A will be same as the probability of A. And we know that what is the formula of PA upon B? Its formula was PA intersection B upon PB. And if I do the cross multiplication, then PA intersection B becomes PA into PB. So when the events are independent, then multiplication theorem is applied in a different way. How? PA intersection B equal to PA into PB. But when the events were not independent, when the events were dependent, in that situation, the formula was PA intersection B is equal to PA into PB upon A. And when the events are independent, in that situation, multiplication theorem works in this way. Suppose I say that PB upon A and A and B are independent events. So in that situation, its value will be PB. And if I write down its formula of conditional probability, then its formula will be PA intersection B upon PA equal to PB. And if I do the cross multiplication, then I will get the same result. So actually when the events are independent, then PA intersection B becomes equal to PA into PB. And suppose if there are 3 independent events, in that situation PA intersection B intersection C will be equal to PA into PB into PC. And if there are 4 events, then in the same way you will open them. So again, this formula can be extended to any number of independent events. So let us see once again about multiplication theorem. In multiplication theorem, PA intersection B is equal to PA into PB upon A when events are dependent. So for dependent events, we use this formula. And if the events are independent, then PA intersection B equal to PA into PB. Okay, so if sometimes in any question this condition gets satisfied, If this condition is satisfied in some situation, then what will be the conclusion? Then the conclusion will be that A and B are independent. So this formula can also be used as a testing tool for whether the given events are dependent or independent. If this formula is satisfied, this condition is satisfied, in that situation we will say that A and B are independent. Okay. Now we will see properties of independent events. We have four properties. PA intersection B equal to PA into PB, that I told you. Property number 2, PA complement intersection B complement is equal to PA complement into PB complement. PA dash intersection B is equal to PA dash into PB. Dash means complement, and at last PA intersection B dash is equal to PA into PB dash. So these four properties are for independent events. Now let us move to our next topic. Now students, our next topic is partitions of sample space. Partitions of sample space. Suppose this rectangle is representing a sample space of some experiment, some random experiment, and let us split this sample space in suppose 3 parts. Number of parts is not fixed. You can break the sample space in 2 parts also, in 3 parts also, 4 parts also, according to requirement of question. But to explain you in an easier manner, I am splitting the sample space in 3 parts. Let this part is E1, this part is E2, and this part is E3. Obviously they are 3 events of the sample space. Then E1, E2, E3 are satisfying following 2 conditions. Number 1, E1, E2, E3 are mutually exclusive. What is the meaning of mutually exclusive? It means E1 intersection E2 is phi, that is empty set or impossible event you can say. E2 intersection E3 is also empty set or impossible event, and E3 intersection E1 is also equal to phi. So if this is happening, then we say that E1, E2, E3 are mutually exclusive. And number 2, E1, E2, E3 are exhaustive. Now what is the meaning of exhaustive? Exhaustive means E1 union E2 union E3 is equal to sample space S. So if E1, E2, E3 are mutually exclusive, and if E1, E2, E3 are exhaustive, if these 2 conditions are satisfied, then we say that E1, E2, E3 are the partitions of this sample space. Okay, you can understand this concept by taking any number of partitions. I have explained with the help of 3 partitions, but in questions, in problems, you will face sometimes 2 partitions are required, sometimes 3 partitions are required. So I hope you have understood the concept of partitions of sample space. Simply E1, E2, E3 are called partitions if they are mutually exclusive and they are exhaustive. Exhaustive means the union of all of them is exactly equal to sample space, and exclusive means they have nothing in common pairwise. E1 and E2 have nothing common, E2 and E3 have nothing common, E3 and E1 have nothing in common. Now our next topic is theorem of total probability. Theorem of total probability. Again, suppose it is sample space and I am taking 3 partitions again. but it is not fixed. Number of partitions can be 2 also, can be 3 also, can be 4 also, and more also. And suppose it is some another event on the same sample space. So now on the same sample space we are having 4 events in which E1, E2, E3 are working as partitions, and A is some extra event or some other event. Then according to this theorem, PA is equal to PE1 into PA upon E1 plus PE2 into PA upon E2 plus PE3 into PA upon E3. This theorem is known as theorem of total probability. By chance, if you are having only 2 partitions, then what will happen? Then in that case, you will remove the third term. And similarly, if you have 4 partitions in a question, then you will add one more term of the same type. It means you will add PE4 into PA upon E4 like that. And if you have 5 partitions, then again you will add one more term. Now, if we want to generalize this formula, if we want to write this formula in general form, then this formula in general form is PA equal to summation of, because here we have done sum of many terms. So summation of P E I. I will not take here 1, 2, 3, etc. I will take general variable EI into PA upon EI. PA upon EI. So total probability theorem in general form is expressed by this, but if you memorize this formula, then it is sufficient to solve your maximum problems. Now our next theorem is Bayes theorem, which is very important theorem in this chapter. Bayes theorem, and this theorem is very important. Again, it is sample space. There are 3 partitions, E1, E2, E3, and this is some another event A. According to Bayes theorem, P E1 upon A is equal to PE1 into PA upon E1, PE1 into PA upon E1 plus PE2 PA upon E2 plus PE3 into PA upon E3. You will be surprised to see that in the denominator of this theorem, what have we written? We have written theorem of total probability. So in this denominator part is having complete theorem, which I told you just before it. What was the name of that theorem? Theorem of total probability. Okay, now see, if I make a change here, if I take here E2, then what change will happen? Here you will write down E2 and here you will write down E2, and in denominator there will be no change. Suppose if I write here E3, then what will happen? Here E3 and here in E3, and in denominator no change. Again let us see, suppose it is E1 here, then what will come here? E1, and here also E1. So this theorem is known as Bayes theorem. Okay, if there are 4 partitions, then what will happen? Then in the same way you will have to add one more term in the denominator, and nothing will happen in numerator. Okay, if we want to write down this theorem in general form, then how will I write? PEI upon A is equal to PEI PA upon EI, and here summation of PEI into PA upon EI. But in maximum questions, it is sufficient to memorize this form or this formula of Bayes theorem. This is not so much required. So you memorize only this formula. With the help of this, you will be able to understand almost all the questions of your book. So this was Bayes theorem. Now let us move to our next topic. Now student, next topic is random variable. Random variable. Random variable is normally denoted by the letter capital X. And what is it? It is just a function. You have studied the topic of function in previous classes. And this function works from the sample space to some real parts, to some real numbers. I'm simply writing codomain. Sample space, what does sample space has? Sample space has all outcomes of experiment, and this will have real numbers, and this function is denoted by capital X. So what is random variable? Random variable is a function. Random variable is a real valued function. Random variable capital X is a real valued function from or whose domain is capital S. Capital S means sample space. Okay. So after this, our next topic is probability distribution. Probability distribution table. Probability distribution is a simple table having two rows. In first row, we record or we write down all the possible values of capital X. Capital X means random variable. So in the first row, you will write down all the possible values of X, and in the second row, you will write down their corresponding probabilities. So this table which you will obtain will be called probability distribution table for that random variable. There are two rules regarding these probabilities. Rule number 1, that each probability is less than equal to 1 and greater than equal to 0. And if we do the sum of all these probabilities, summation means sum. If we do the summation of all these probabilities, then the result will be exactly 1. So by following these two rules, you will have to write down all the probabilities here. And what will come here? Here the all possible values of random variable X will come. And this table is known as probability distribution table. Now with the help of probability distribution table, we get three important results. One is mean, other is variance, and number 3 is standard deviation. Okay, so let us see these one by one. Mean. Mean of X, or we denote it by EX, or we denote it by mu, or most expected value of X. So there are many names for it. Mean of X, EX, or mu, or most expected value of X. Okay, what is the formula? Mu is equal to summation xi into pxi. By using this formula, you can obtain mean of the random variable. Now second formula is of variance, or it is denoted by VARX. Its formula is variance of X is equal to summation xi square into pxi minus mu square. Here mu means mean, and this particular term is denoted by Ex square. Third formula is of standard deviation. Standard deviation, its formula is standard deviation equal to square root of variance. So if you know the value of variance, then simply calculate the square root of variance and you will obtain the value of standard deviation. So first of all, we understood random variable. With the help of random variable, we have to make probability distribution table, PDT, and with the help of probability distribution table, you can obtain mean, you can obtain variance of X, and you can also obtain standard deviation. So all these three topics are based on the random variable X. Now let us come to our next topic. Now friends, we are coming to the last topic, which is Bernoulli trials. Sometimes an experiment contains a large number of trials. For example, if I say that we have a die and we are throwing a die, suppose 100 times. So then this experiment is consisting throwing of die 100 times. So it means this experiment is containing 100 trials. Now, what is the meaning of Bernoulli trials? Bernoulli trials is a special situation of trials. When we say that the trials are Bernoulli, actually trials of an experiment are called Bernoulli trials if 4 conditions are satisfied. So I am telling you conditions. Condition number 1, that number of trials is finite. Number of trials is finite. Number 2, trials are independent from each other. Number 3, each trial has exactly 2 outcomes called success and failure. And 4th, which is last condition, probability of success in each trial is same. Probability of success in each trial is same. So if these 4 conditions are satisfied by trials of an experiment, then those trials will be called as Bernoulli trials. Example. Suppose I say you that you have a die and throw this die 100 times under identical conditions. Since you are throwing die again and again 100 times, it means this experiment is containing 100 trials, and which is a finite number. 100 is a finite number. So condition number 1 is satisfied, that number of trials are finite. Condition number 2, trials are independent. See here, when you are throwing die for the first time and after that you are throwing the die second time, then they are being thrown under identical condition, under same condition, and they are independent from each other. Throwing die second time and throwing die first time are independent from each other, and in the same way all the throws of die are independent from each other. So it means these trials are independent from each other. So condition number 2 satisfied, that trials are independent. Now I told you that each trial has exactly 2 outcomes, success and failure. For that we will have to define success and failure in this example. Let us see example once again. Suppose die and 100 times. Okay, first time, second time, third time, and 100th time. When you throw the die, 6 outcomes are possible: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. and same thing happens in all the throws of die. Suppose I say that getting even number is a success and getting odd number is a failure. I'm defining it from my side that if even number comes out, then it is success, and if odd number comes out, then it is failure. So obviously when you will throw die, either odd number will come or even number will come. It means either you will get success or you will get failure. If you get any even number, it will be a success. If you get any odd number, it will be a failure. So for the first trial, you are having two outcomes now. Initially die was having 6 outcomes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I converted those 6 outcomes into only 2 outcomes, success and failure. Success means getting even number and failure means getting odd number. That I decided from my side. So finally what I did, I converted the 6 outcomes of die into only 2 outcomes called success and failure. So this trial is now having 2 outcomes. In the same way, second trial will also have the same 2 outcomes, and every throw of die will have the two outcomes called success, failure, success, failure. So condition number 3 is satisfied, that each trial has 2 outcomes, success and failure. Condition number 4, probability of success in each trial is same. How it is happening here? Die has 4 outcomes, in which 2, 4, 6 are even outcomes. So what is the probability of getting even number? 3 by 6. It means 1 by 2. So probability of getting even number is 1 by 2. It means probability of getting success is 1 by 2. So in this trial, probability of success is 1 by 2. And you are throwing the die second time under identical condition. That's why the probability of success will also be the same 1 by 2. In the third trial, probability of success will be again 1 by 2. So in each trial, probability of success is same. So fourth condition satisfied, which says probability of success in each trial is same. So that's why this is an example of Bernoulli trials. Now we will see a very important formula based on Bernoulli trials. You can consider it as a theorem on Bernoulli trials. Let we have n Bernoulli trials and we want to get success r times. Its probability can be obtained by this formula. P x is equal to r is equal to NCR p power r q power n minus r. Now in this formula or in this theorem, what is the meaning of various symbols? N. What is the n? N is the total number of Bernoulli trials. What is R? R is the desired number of successes. Desired number of success. What is P here? P is the probability of success in each trial. What is Q? Q is the probability of failure in each trial, and P plus Q is definitely 1. What is the meaning of Px equal to R? It is the probability of getting success R times. So this formula is used to find out the probability of getting success R times. And what is the meaning of NCR? NCR, here C means combination. The formula of NCR is n factorial upon R factorial and n minus R factorial. Next, binomial distribution. Binomial distribution. It is nothing but a table like this. In first row, you have to write down all possible values of capital X. And what is capital X here? Capital X is a number of success. Capital X means number of success. So the value of capital X will be 1, 2, 3 and so on, and maximum value of X will be n. And what is n? I told you n is the total number of trials. So in binomial distribution, the minimum value of X, let us change it, it is mistake, 0, 1, 2 and at last n. So what is the minimum value of capital X? 0. And what is the maximum value of capital X? N. What is n? N is the total number of Bernoulli trials. And what is X here? X is the number of success. And here you will write down the corresponding probabilities. This type of distribution is known as binomial distribution. In binomial distribution, you have to remember that here whole numbers will be taken starting from 0 and up to n. Okay, and this X will represent number of success, and Px will be the corresponding probability. This type of binomial distribution is also denoted by BNP. B for binomial distribution, N is the total number of Bernoulli trials, and P is the probability of success in each trial. Now last, mean and variance. If you want to find out mean, then the formula of mean is NP and the formula of variance is NPQ. But these two formulas work only when Bernoulli trials. If the trials are not Bernoulli trials, then these formulas cannot be applied. If trials are Bernoulli trials, then you can apply these formulas for finding mean and variance. Thank you very much.